Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. You may be noticing a little difference in the sound today. That's because I'm using a different mic. Yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video, you know that I had some sound problems. I also have a problem with the lighting. As you can see right now, I'm working on it. I ordered a light. It's supposed to be delivered hopefully Saturday. Unfortunately, because of this coronavirus business, I can't just go to Best Buy and walk in and look around and find myself a new lavalier mic. We'll see how this works. I'll use it for now, and hopefully I'll get a lavalier. I guess I could order from Amazon.com. But anyways, bear with me, so I understand it's probably a little bit echoey because this is the way my office sounds. Today's subject, now getting to today's subject, I was talking for the last couple of days about Bernie Sanders dropping out of the presidential race and endorsing Joe Biden, specifically the supporting Joe Biden part, because I consider it a sellout. As far as I'm concerned, he sold out. And he's not the only one, because I just learned today, which is Thursday. I record this on Thursday. You're seeing it on Friday. I recorded them the day before. But Elizabeth Warren has now endorsed Joe Biden. So all of the candidates who opposed Joe Biden now support him, which would normally be understandable, except that he is so different from Bernie Sanders and from Elizabeth Warren that those two in particular, I'm surprised that they are supporting him. Well, in a way, I'm not with Elizabeth Warren if she wants a future in the Democratic Party. But Bernie Sanders, he doesn't even consider himself a Democrat. He's a democratic socialist. That's what he calls himself, which is why I'm surprised that he does not run a third party or independent candidacy if he really believes in his principles. As I said in an earlier vlog of the last 2 days, I forget which one, I think his main principle, as with all Democrats, or most, except for some very principled Bernie Sanders supporters. That's what I'm going to continue on today. But their main goal is to defeat Donald Trump, not to have a future in the Democratic Party. Because as I said in one of these earlier vlogs, if the Bernie supporters, if the progressives, if the left just continue to fall in line, they will never have any power in the party. And that's what I want to pick up on today. Partly, the main thing I want to pick up on today is, as I said in one of these earlier vlogs, I keep saying earlier vlogs, but that's when it was. In one of these earlier vlogs, I said the big decision that the Bernie bros, the Bernie Sanders supporters have to make is, are they going to fall in line? Are they going to sell out as Bernie Sanders himself did? I included in one of these earlier vlogs some tweets and an article quoting the former spokeswoman for the Sanders campaign, but also just some Bernie supporters saying that they would not vote for Joe Biden. I said that was the big decision that the entire Bernie universe has to make. Are they going to fall in line again, or are they going to try to have some power and influence going forward? Because they don't now. They think they do, or you think you do if you're a Bernie supporter watching this. You're going to hear Joe Biden throw some sops to you, okay? He's going to play you for suckers. He's going to offer some things that he will not follow through on if he becomes president. Trust me on this, but you should know this already. I'm sure you do, because this is time number 2. In 2016, the establishment Democrats screwed you. They just did it again. They'll just continue to do it in the future. That's my prediction if you continue to let them have their way with you. I guess that's the only way I can really put it. But what I want to focus on today to help you, Bernie supporters, those of you who don't know already what the establishment Democrats really think about you and what you will be agreeing with or buying into or letting go by the wayside if you vote for Biden. And this is surprising to me because I'm a conservative and I considered MSNBC a very far left, at least some of the hosts, very far left channel. So I'm surprised to hear these kind of comments that I'm going to read you right now from Joy Reid, who was a talking head on MSNBC, because she is sounding like an establishment Democrat, or to be honest, like Bernie Sanders, now that he is supporting, now that he has sold out. So I guess she is doing the same thing, and like Bernie, inviting all of you to do the same. And her way of inviting you is by insulting you if you stick to your principles. It's basically that argument that if you don't vote for Biden, it's the same as voting for Trump. If you decide that you prefer the Green Party and you vote for the Green Party, no, you're not voting for the Green Party candidate, you're actually voting for Trump. In other words, letting him win by default. But this is what the Democratic Party thinks of you. And I say this, well, I was a never-Trumper, so obviously I had nothing against the never-Trumpers. But even the never-Trumpers that are still around today, I just don't think of them the way, I just disagree with them, that's all. I don't think of them the way you're going to hear Reid, or read a quote from Reid, what she thinks of you Bernie supporters. This article is by Jonathan Turley, who, by the way, is one of my favorite liberal writers. I encourage you, I always link to these articles that I quote. I put them in the description. I encourage you to visit Turley's site. He is a very interesting writer. He's one of my favorites, and I'm a conservative, and I say that as a conservative who doesn't always agree with him. Well, obviously, I often don't agree with him. I urge all of you to visit him, and you'll see maybe why from this article. Because he is, however much he may disagree with me, he is very fair, and he just calls them as he sees them, as he does here. So here's the headline: MSNBC host denounces Sanders supporters as, quote, privileged white voters, unquote, for not supporting Biden, as if there are no black Bernie supporters. I guess this means that if you're a black person who supported Bernie, you are a fake black person. I guess that's the only conclusion I reach from this. Now on to the quotes. We have been discussing, and by the way, well, it should be obvious, we is the editorial we. We is Jonathan Turley, not me. And when Turley says I, he means Turley, not me. So, back to the quotes. We have been discussing the open hostility, to put it mildly, that Senator Bernie Sanders has faced on MSNBC and CNN during both his runs for the presidency in 2016 and 2020. In one of the last large rallies of Sanders in Michigan and his campaign, I spoke with Sanders supporters who were adamantly opposed to Joe Biden. For them, it is no accident that once again, the only option for the general election is the most establishment figure in the race. They joined Sanders, some for their first campaign, because of his agenda and in opposition to the establishment policies that they see controlling the Democratic National Committee and Biden. Now, MSNBC host Joy Reid has denounced those Sanders supporters as, quote, privileged white voters, unquote, because they refuse to support Biden. Reid's ire was drawn by statements by commentator Kyle Kulinski, who told critics that they could, quote, blame, unquote, him if President Trump defeats Biden in November. Quote, as a left-winger who will not vote for Biden, I want you to know I'm 100% okay with you blaming me if Trump wins a second term. I mean it. Blame me. Then get to thinking real hard how you're going to get me to support your candidate the next time. Maybe even ask me. I'll tell you, we shouldn't be defensive about this. If they're blaming us for Trump, that's an admission that they need us to win. If they need us to win, then they need to make concessions. Own it, unquote. And having seen, read, or heard that comment, Reid and others pounced. Reid declared, quote, what this kind of thing says to me is that these are not, quote, left-wing, unquote, voters. So if you don't vote, Bernie bros, Bernie supporters, if you don't vote for establishment Democrat Joe Biden, you are not really a left-wing voter. That's what she's saying, but she's saying more than that. They are privileged white voters who demand to be bowed down to, no different than Trump's voters want those who are not white and Christian to take the knee for them, like in the, quote, good old days, unquote. Just for the record, I'm a Trump supporter and I'm Jewish. Okay? These are voters whose primary concern is that everyone else kneel. That's it. Kneel. Or they threaten the rest of us with the endless torment of Trumpism. Caged children, viral death, poverty, want, voter suppression, Muslim bans. Of course, none of this harms or impacts them, unquote, because if you're a black person or a poor person who supports Sanders, these supposedly bad policies, obviously I disagree, but if you're a liberal, these supposedly bad Trump policies, they don't affect you because you're not really poor, you're not really black, you're privileged and white. So says Reid of MSNBC. So Sanders voters who refuse to support the establishment candidate are, quote, white privileged voters, unquote. There are substantial differences between the candidates that turn on fundamentally different visions for this country. And this is the important part. This is where you really need to pay attention, Bernie supporters. There are, after an unrelenting and unified front against Sanders, the Democratic establishment now expects the Sanders supporters to flock to their chosen candidate. Their meaning not the supporters of Bernie Sanders, of course, but the Democratic establishment's chosen candidate. That doesn't sound privileged, it sounds delusional. Well, is it delusional or not? That is the big question for you Bernie Sanders supporters. If you fall in line, as Bernie Sanders did, if you support Biden, if you go out and vote for Joe Biden, then the quote-unquote Democratic establishment, they're far from delusional. They have you pegged exactly right, just as they, at the end of the day, had Bernie Sanders pegged exactly right. And why shouldn't they? Because of the way he reacted after the 2016 primaries, where they did to Sanders then exactly what they just did to him just now, and he just stood there and took it. Will you stand there and take it? That is the question. If you stick to your principles, if you stay home, as a number of people I quoted in one of my previous vlogs of either yesterday or the day before, they are not voting for Sanders. And that includes, by the way, Sanders's former campaign spokeswoman. She said that she cannot endorse Biden. I take that to mean that she's not going to vote for him either. I could be wrong. That's how I take it. But the question is now for the the rest of you, what are you going to do? You're going to prove them right? You're going to let yourselves be thrown under the bus again? You're going to let yourselves have no power as far as the eye can see? Because, as I said in one of those earlier vlogs, the establishment Democrats can make this argument with every election. Just pick Democratic establishment, fill in the blank candidate, and fill in the blank progressive candidate, fill in the blank Republican candidate, and they will always maneuver to get fill in the blank Democratic establishment candidate as a nominee, and then they will say that if you do not vote for fill in the blank Democratic establishment candidate, then fill in the blank Republican candidate wins, and you will never have any power or influence ever. So if we're talking about delusions, don't delude yourself, because if you vote for Biden, that is exactly what you will be doing. And that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. As usual, thumbs up if you like this video. Share with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any questions? You can put them in the comment section below the video. Also, even though it's a comment section, you can put questions there as well as suggestions for future topics. I won't complain. And you can subscribe. I definitely won't complain if you subscribe, because I love getting subscribers. So subscribe, 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 and finally come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.